May 3, 1945. A harsh wind tore across a temporary transit camp on the edge of Bremen. 38 German women stumbled down from a Bedford military lorry into steady drizzle. Their Wehrmacht auxiliary uniforms clung loosely to starved bodies. Hollow eyes stared out from gaunt faces, darkened by weeks of retreat, hunger, and fear. They had been taught one unshakable truth about the British: refined on the surface, savage beneath. Men who spoke politely while committing barbarity. Civility as a disguise for cruelty. Better to die than surrender. Better death than capture. So when 26-year-old Greta Hoffmann collapsed onto the soaked gravel, her grey dress spreading dark with fresh blood, panic erupted. The women screamed. They were certain it had begun. This was the execution, but no rifles were raised. British soldiers ran forward instead, boots splashing through puddles, medical bags slung over their shoulders. Their faces showed no hatred, only urgency. Before unconsciousness claimed her, Greta whispered 5 words, barely audible: "I'm bleeding through my dress." What followed over the next 96 hours did more than save her life. It dismantled everything these women believed about the enemy, about honor, about the war they had served. They expected punishment. They received penicillin. They anticipated hunger. They were given tea, fresh bread, and tinned fruit. They braced for the cold cruelty of victors. Instead, they encountered something far more devastating: decency, and that decency broke them in ways no weapon ever could. This is the true story of 38 German women prisoners and the British mercy that quietly destroyed their world. If you're drawn to forgotten moments of history that challenge everything you think you know about war, you're in the right place. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss these untold stories. Like this video if you want more hidden World War II history. And stay until the end, because what these women discovered inside a British camp will change how you see enemies, honor, and what it truly means to remain human when the world has lost its mind. Let us begin. The gravel was slick with rain. Greta Hoffmann felt it immediately, the damp cold seeping through worn boots as she stepped down from the lorry into the intake area of Transit Camp B7, just outside the shattered remains of Bremen. Around her, 37 other women descended into the same grey morning, their Nachrichtenfällen and Stabshelferin uniforms stained with mud and worse, their expressions reflecting the exhaustion of a Reich drawing its final breath. It was May 3, 1945. Hitler had been dead for 3 days, though most of them did not yet know. Berlin had fallen. The war was finished in all but formal words. Now, inside a hastily assembled British camp ringed with barbed wire and watchtowers, 38 German women stood in loose formation, waiting to learn what fate awaited them. The warnings had been relentless, repeated during training, whispered in barracks, reinforced by officers until the moment of capture. The British are the most dangerous enemy. They hide cruelty behind manners. They torture with politeness. They violate while calling it civilization. Better to die than surrender to British hypocrisy. These ideas had been drilled into them for years. More than 450,000 German women served in auxiliary roles during the war. Those taken by Soviet forces endured horrors that confirmed every fear. Surely the British would be no different. War stripped away illusions. Their restraint was just another mask. But what struck Greta first was not violence. It was the smell. Tea, real tea. Not the bitter ersatz leaves of late-war Germany, but genuine tea. The scent drifted from somewhere beyond the tents, mingling with wet canvas, diesel fumes, and wood smoke. Beneath it all lingered something unmistakably clean. Carbolic soap. The British were using real soap. Greta inhaled and the world tilted. Or perhaps it was the pain, a deep tearing sensation in her lower abdomen that had been worsening for 5 days. She had told no one. Weakness meant abandonment. Abandonment meant death, either from Soviet troops pressing in from the east or German military police executing stragglers during the collapse. So she pressed her hand to her stomach during the long march west. She bit her tongue until she tasted blood. She kept moving. Now rain soaked through her uniform, and warmth slid down her inner thigh. She looked down. The hem of her dress was darkening, not from rain, but blood. Greta Liesel Braun's voice trembled. Her eyes widened in horror. "Du blutest, you're bleeding." Greta swayed. "I'm bleeding through my dress," she whispered. Then the gravel rushed up to meet her. Her body struck the stones with a sound that cut through rain, murmurs, and fear. For one frozen heartbeat, nothing moved. The women stood paralyzed, minds racing toward the same conclusion. The British had done something. The violence had begun. Then the screaming erupted. Liesel collapsed beside Greta, sobbing, trying to shield her friend with her body. Others recoiled in terror. Marguerite Klein, the oldest at 43, dragged 2 younger women back, her face twisted with rage and fear. "They've shot her," someone cried, but no shots had been fired. What happened next shattered everything they believed. 2 British medical orderlies sprinted across the gravel, Red Cross armbands bright against khaki uniforms. Behind them came a stretcher team. A medical officer dropped his clipboard and ran. Major Edmund Hartley, his nameplate red. "Stand back," he ordered, voice sharp, professional. The women parted. Liesel remained crouched over Greta, pleading, sobbing. One orderly knelt beside her, his voice calm. "Please, we need to help her." She didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. Concern, not cruelty. She moved aside. Major Hartley knelt in the mud, pressing fingers to Greta's throat. Pulse weak but steady. She's hemorrhaging, scissors cut fabric. An old shrapnel wound, untreated, infected, had reopened during transport. Liesel watched in disbelief. A British officer kneeling in rain to save a German woman. This was impossible. Hartley pointed to the red cross on his arm. His German was rough but clear. We help understand. Liesel nodded, mute with shock. Within minutes, Greta was loaded into a marked ambulance. Through the open doors, Liesel saw something unreal: clean metal racks, oxygen tanks, organized supplies. Nothing like the straw-filled aid posts of the Eastern Front. As the doors slammed shut, Frieda Richter whispered, her voice barely audible, "They're saving her." It wasn't a question. It was a statement that cracked the foundations of their world. The enemy was not supposed to do this. As British soldiers escorted them to ward processing tents, guards, bored rather than vicious, doubt began to grow. Small, dangerous, impossible to ignore. 4 months earlier, they had been cogs in the Reich's machinery, not fighters but infrastructure. Radio operators, clerks, nurses, signal staff. Greta Hoffmann joined the Nachrichtenfällen in 1941, a university graduate fluent in English. She believed she was serving something larger than herself. Liesel Brown had no choice. Conscription took her at 18. She became a switchboard operator, connecting calls between officers, discussing victories that never came. Frieda Richter volunteered in 1939, a trained nurse. She spent 6 years in field hospitals, from Poland to France to the nightmare of the Eastern Front, holding dying boys and whispering lies of survival. By May 1945, they all knew the truth. The Reich was finished. They were captured April 26 near Osnabrück. The men surrendered, officers fled. The women stood in a muddy field with raised hands. A British captain told them plainly, "You are prisoners of war. You will be treated under the Geneva Convention." It sounded like fantasy. During training, they were told British kindness was manipulation, psychological torture, a trap. The journey west lasted 7 days. Covered lorries, hard biscuits, water twice daily. No threats, no abuse. This only deepened their fear. The cruelty would come later. They whispered at night. Some vowed resistance, others doubted. Frieda remained silent. Then Greta collapsed and the lie began to unravel. Inside the tent, signs hung in German and English: registration, medical examination, supplies. A British woman typed names without emotion or cruelty. The questions were administrative, boring, normal. Then came medical examinations. This was where they expected horror. Instead, they found British women, female doctors, female nurses, privacy screens. Captain Dorothy Ashford spoke calmly. "You will be treated with dignity. Privacy, hot water, soap, real soap." Under the spray, women cried. Others laughed. Ideology crumbled under warmth. Dinner followed. Potatoes with butter, vegetables with color, meat and gravy, white bread, tea with milk and sugar, tinned pineapple. They stared. Marguerite called it psychological warfare. Frieda ate. Tears followed. How could Britain have this while Germany starved? That night, they slept in real beds. The next days brought wages, a canteen, chocolate letters home, a library, and kindness from people who had every reason to hate them. 3 weeks later, Greta returned. "Alive, they gave me penicillin," she said softly. "They asked my permission for everything." The women sat in silence. They had been prepared for cruelty. They were not prepared for mercy, and mercy forced them to face the most painful truth of all. The enemy was human, and so were they.